Yeah, 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 yeah. It's here. It is here. It is the first full day of football glory. We are rocking with you guys on the TFA Airways for our week one pregame game day show. Going to be trying to go through all the news and notes and all your questions, everything you guys need to know to get you ready for this glorious day of football that we have upon us. Find me on Twitter at @CKutzerFF, rocking with Jeff Donovan at @JeffDonovan_FF. Robbie Jeffries over there gluing his eyelids to the top of his eye sockets to try and stay awake, rocking the 5 hours of sleep to make it here with you guys. Find him at NFL Robbie. We have the infidel of Dynasty, Tom Corson at Dynasty Infidel, and the one, the only, the one who thought he wasn't going to make it, and he said, hell nah, I'm coming in hot. And that is Kevin Steele. Find him on Twitter at FantasyWrath13. Boys, let's just open it up. What are you guys looking for here in week one? Obviously, it looks like Mike Evans is going to play, apparently. Cortland Sutton, I guess, is still questionable. We know Miles Sanders is out. What are you guys looking for in terms of injuries? Is there anything that's sticking out to you right now? Anybody? Not all at once. Robbie, come, jeez, man, get some sleep.
You got me? I'm here now. I think I'm here. Yeah,
amateur hour.
For me, it's Mike Evans. I mean, that's somebody that you really want to play if he's active, but you know, it's such a question. And then you have the matchup against the Saints and you know, their corners, and so it's like, is that somebody that if you had another option that you can throw in like a D-Jax or a Devontae Parker or something like that? So maybe somebody that has a little less risk, because we've seen Evans, you know, he's boom or bust, and I think that one's just really nervous for me.
Tom,
you're muted as well.
These damn Dynasty guys, Jesus.
I didn't even mute myself. I get whatever. Robbie didn't either. You know what? It's user error. Cody did it. I'm sure it's saboteuring. But I'm looking forward to watching TJ Hawkinson a little bit there because if Galladay's out, they got to throw the ball, obviously, to Marvin Jones. And
he's officially out.
Somebody else. Okay, so he's officially out. So TJ Hawkinson is, you know, probably a top 10 tight end for me this week. So I'm looking forward to seeing him get the ball rolling.
If you're watching live and you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in now, and we will get to them as we see them. Are there any start-sit conundrums that you guys had going into this week?
Yeah, I had one. I think I posted a Twitter poll, and it was actually pretty close. I have Chark, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Juju. I can start 3 of the 4. I think the obvious one is starting Moore, but then it's of the 2 of the last 3 between KA, Juju, and Chark. Who would you guys go out of those? You can start 2 of the 3, half PPR.
Probably Shark, just because the amount of garbage time and
Chark for sure.
Yeah, and the big playability that he could actually pop some off for you. But I think he's got by far the highest floor for you and probably the highest ceiling as well. So I just think he's safe too.
Then you got to pick one more. We're only sitting one of those.
And then the other one was, you said KJ?
KA or Juju.
I'm starting Juju. KA, I'm not sure, just because of, you know, the quarterback situation. We're not sure what Tyrod is going to look like there. I think he's missing 3 people on the offensive line, possibly. So
two most likely, and then we'll see if Balaga is going to go.
So he could be running for his life, and who knows what's going to go on with that.
First question of the year here. We got Alex FFB Raider, D-Jax, Jonathan Taylor, or Lev Bell in the flex.
That's a standard league.
Yeah, but see, this is where things get confusing, because now they're like ESPN is calling PPR standard. You know what I mean? So it's just like that's what I've seen these so often. I'm just like, is this?
I think standard is, non-PPR. That's what they should be calling it. So that's what I'm going to assume it is. And if that's the case, I'll go Bell there just because of the safety there. We don't necessarily know the type of workload Jonathan Taylor is going to get. D-Jack's couple plays he could pop off. Rager's playing. I think Bell's probably the safest bet there, but Adam Gase is a jackass, so who knows what's going to wind up happening.
Jeff, what say you?
Yeah, I'd probably go Le'Veon Bell as well, just for floor purposes. D-Jax definitely could pop off. He's got a great matchup today. So, and Jonathan Taylor, I mean, it's a great matchup, but it's kind of wait and see on how that backfield pans out with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. How's that going to get split today? Red zone situations, who knows? So yeah, Le'Veon Bell, I agree with Tom.
All right, up next we got Noel rocking with us in the YouTube chat. Does he go with Cohen, Anthony Miller, or Henry Ruggs full PPR?
Cohen.
Ruggs.
Miller.
Jeff, break this tie. Who you going with?
I'd go Anthony Miller as well.
Yeah, I'm not going Cohen in this matchup. He's the one I had at the bottom of the list.
And Montgomery's a good now, it looks like, right?
Yeah, it looks like Montgomery, he logged a full practice. It seems like there was I think Schefter put out a tweet that it seems like he's going to get his full workload as well. I don't see that being a game where they're going to be trailing behind a massive amount that they're going to need to funnel targets to Cohen. So
I have no idea how that game script's going to go. I mean, trying to predict a Bears versus Lions matchup could be any which way. Like, you could tell me it goes any which way, and I believe it. So honestly, game script could favor him, could go against him, but I do think Cohen's probably gonna have more targets than Miller. Like, so that's just the PPR for me. We'll fade for Cohen there.
Justin T also rocking with us. Who'd you rather have at the flex spot this week between Monty, Manny, or Rojo in a half PPR?
Use Rojo while you can for the first 2 weeks. I think Rojo will probably get the most work out of everybody out there in Tampa, and then David Montgomery, we still don't know what his groin's gonna wind up doing. So and then Sanders, we're not sure exactly what they're gonna what that offense is gonna look like with him out there. He should be okay, but I'm going Rojo. I think he's probably got the best possible outcome.
That's a tough matchup for the Bucs. And then if Rojo's kind of got a lot of those question marks, if they fall behind, does McCoy get in there? As the Rojo stand on this podcast, I'm nervous to roll him out in this matchup. I would probably go DeMont there. I mean, he's been full practice the last 2 days. I think the only reason we're worried is because we thought he was out for the year there for a bit, and no, he's practicing in full. So I would roll him out in that matchup against the Lions.
Kev, saw you nodding there. Who you going with in this scenario for Justin?
With David Montgomery. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, I wouldn't want to play him at all. I think that Leonard Fournette is going to have a bigger role than people think in this matchup, and so that is why I would not want to play anybody but David Montgomery here.
Kev has just been a full-on Emmanuel Sanders hater this entire offseason.
If you're going to do it right.
Well, he's dust, so why would you want to play him?
Oh, my God. The absolute hatred. Have you guys noticed any more inactives or actives coming through? I know J.C. Treader is expected to play for Cleveland. That obviously helps out that offensive line. That Cleveland defense is just decimated. Obviously, Greedy Williams is out. Mac Wilson, their linebacker, is also out after they got rid of Christian Kirksey and Joe Schobert. Obviously, they lost another corner. Isn't Delpit out, I believe, for the year?
Yes. Yes.
Have you guys seen anything else rolling through here?
Yeah, so Lane Johnson is not going to play because of his ankle today, which means they're going to be
Cool.
starting Jack Driscoll, who is a rookie at right tackle there. So you're going to have Jack Driscoll, Matt Pryor.
As long as it's not Jeff Driscoll, right? Should be okay.
So you have it's Driscoll, then Matt Pryor, then Kelsey at center, and then JP is going to be at left tackle, and I'm blanking on the Sayamalu
Okay.
at guard.
We don't need the full lineup.
But
Eagles offensive line. Thanks.
No,
Thanks, Tom.
the point is, it's typically a top 5 offensive line, and me naming those guys, you're like, who the hell? What's going on? Yeah, the starting 5. So it's a little bit scary. So if you're thinking you're just going to plug in Boston Scott and get a ton of points against that, defensive line, then hopefully you have a better option. I don't know what they're going to wind up doing. They are going to have to throw a bunch.
Has that game line switched at all? I mean, with all these Eagles injuries, I know Kendall Fuller on the opposite side will be out at corner, which I think going back to Alex's question about Djax, if he's in a standard league, I mean, Deshaun Jackson just seems like a play there with Fuller out. If you're not worried about PPR points, Djax is kind of that boomer bust. But just curious if you knew if that line's changed with the Eagles Washington football team game.
So it was at 6.5 earlier on in the week, went down to 5.5, and actually just popped back up to 6 within the last hour and a half. So more money's coming in on Philly in spite of the inactives.
It's getting a little risky, man.
I don't think it's getting risky, but the 6, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they wind up looking
JD
like
McKissick
today.
season. Let's roll.
Get out. Go back to bed.
Robbie Jeffries has left the chat. Go ahead, Kev.
It's such an easy play. Like he is 100%. It's up. I don't know what to tell you. It's up. I've already checked it. It's good to go. Like I don't know what to tell you on that. All right. But Boston Scott is an easy play. Okay. So I'm playing him about 70% of DFS. So my money is where my mouth is. He's like if you're playing if you play DFS, he's like 4,800 on DraftKings. I know you probably drafted him if you drafted Miles Sanders. If he's not playing, he's going to get 60 to 70% of the touches. We don't know where Corey Clement's quad comes in. He's going to get the pass catching volume, which is what you're looking for anyways from him. So Boston Scott is a smash play today. Like it's such an easy play. I don't care about the offensive line. I'm not worried about the offensive line. Like you're using him because of his pass catching upside, which is much greater. And plus we've seen him in this opportunity when he's been given it before and how well he's performed. So I don't care about the offensive line.
Kev, I guess this is more leaning DFS, but I think it's also a question for anyone who drafted Raheem Mostert. It seems like that game is going to go on as planned, despite the air quality stuff. So that brings Tevin Coleman sitting into question. Is Raheem Mostert a must play? Obviously, depending on how you drafted and whether he's your RB2 or your RB3, would you be putting and just plugging in Raheem Mostert almost no matter what?
Yeah, but you have to have a contingency plan in the situation that he doesn't play. But, yeah, I mean, I think you play him. It doesn't sound. I mean, as of right now, it doesn't sound like the game's going to get moved, or it's going to get canceled.
Got a question from Mike in the YouTube chat: Bell or Crowder in the flex full PPR?
Gosh, that's just an ugly matchup, right? Like you think the Jets will be playing catch up, which honestly bodes well for both of those. But if you're adding in Lev Bell's rushing potential, I think I probably lean Bell there between the two. Crowder's not a high touchdown potential there, so give me Bell with that higher touchdown potential.
Jeff, who you rolling with, Bell or Crowder?
Yeah, I'd go Bell. Exactly what Robbie just said. Touchdown potential. Crowder, I mean, they don't have – Perriman's banged up. Tough matchup. I'd just be rolling with Bell. I mean, you took him in the 4th, 5th round.
Yep. And then I don't know if you guys saw, but Galladay and Okudah for the Lions are inactive.
So obviously the Lions still have True Font on one side, but I mean A-Rob beaten season.
It's Mitchell Trubisky week.
How high do you have him, Kev and Jeff, and I guess whoever does rankings in here, all of us? How high are you going to push him up into top 20, maybe?
Oh yeah, he definitely should be. Yes, he and Trubisky has actually smashed the Lions through his career. I think of his like 5 or 6 300-yard games, 3 or 4 of them have come against the Lions. Like he's always played really well against the Lions. We saw in the second half where he actually started last year where he started to run the ball a little bit more. That's one thing that he wasn't doing earlier in the year last year. I know it's easy to hate Mitchell Trubisky because of how poorly he played last year, but I think that in this matchup, in this 1 week, if I had to make a decision with some of these guys that I would be less likely to play, I think Trubisky is 100% in square and play and should be something that people should be looking at. So I like Trubisky a lot. There's nothing on the Lions defense that scares me whatsoever. This game has the potential to be somewhat of a shootout, I think, on both sides. The Bears secondary is not very good either, and so it does hurt the Lions to not have Kenny Golladay. But I think overall, I think this matchup should be a good one, and I think one that Trubisky can put up some fantasy points today.
You have him in quite a bit of DFS lineups. I know you only have 60 of them, Kev.
I do. I have him. I'm playing him in about 30% of lines. I think 20 to 30%. I'd say somewhere right around there is where I'm coming in on them, stacking them with either Allen Robinson or Anthony Miller. And then I think that TJ Hawkinson actually is probably is a fantastic play today with no Galladay. I know a lot of people are going to want to play Marvin Jones, but I think TJ Hawkinson could absolutely torch today. And so I would be starting him everywhere. I think he is a slam dunk top 10 tight end.
Yeah, can I piggyback off that and just ask you guys, like Amendola, like if you needed a flex, you're missing some of these guys. Is Amendola someone that you'd be willing to have in that flex range, or is he someone you're staying away from?
He was questionable. Is he
was not on the inactives.
Okay. No.
No, I wouldn't play him.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Cephas, right? To see if he gets any run. He was getting that drum beat that we always look for during the offseason throughout training camp, and obviously with Galladay's sideline, it's going to be interesting to see how he's involved, how they use Swift. He was kind of locked into that pass catching role they were using him in. And then now that he's been active, so do they use Carry On as kind of the first and second down guy, and then use Swift as a pass catcher? So it's going to be a lot of interesting things to look at in that game. There's really not too much to talk about in this game other than just how excited I am for it. Tom, you put out the Calvin Ridley prop tweet earlier, and that is Seattle at Atlanta. And I mean, this is just a game that I'm just looking forward to just watch. This is a game where you're not really actually. What are you guys doing with the running backs in this game? Are you starting Carson if you drafted him? Or are you starting Todd Gurley? Obviously, all the pass catchers are in play. Josh Gordon is not active yet, so it looks like it's going to be Lockett and Metcalf. Go ahead.
And Dorsett was ruled out too. So
okay. Well,
I actually don't
not
own.
that it matter.
Yeah, I actually don't own Carson or Gurley, I think, anywhere. So I'm horrible to answer that question. But I love all the pass catchers in that game. All of them.
Then I'm on the flip of Tom. I have a lot of Carson, a lot of Gurley, and with that 49 over under, I mean that's you want to have players in that game that should be a high scoring affair. And we talk about a lot of these. It could be shootouts. I mean, this is one that Vegas has shown us will be a shootout, nearly 50 point over under. So that is definitely, I'd say you're starting anybody that you drafted in the top 8 rounds for sure.
I really like Atlanta to pull off that upset, so to speak, especially if they wind up getting into a shootout. I love that.
Yeah, man. I think the Seahawks and then the Seahawks front seven is their linebackers are solid, but they have no pass rush. I don't know where that's going to come from. Their secondary is much better. So I think Todd Gurley eats today. Like I'm not worried about playing Todd Gurley whatsoever. You're 100% starting him.
And that line has actually moved from Atlanta getting 2.5 down to 1. So there's heavy money coming in on Atlanta there.
Tom, we'll have you answer this question we got from the FFB commish. Thoughts on Rager in his debut. He can't see him getting less than 8 targets with Alshon and Sanders out. How are you feeling about Rager? Obviously, he had the injury. Thought he was going to be out for a couple of weeks, and now all of a sudden he's going to play. We thought Miles Sanders was going to be okay, and now he is out. So, what are your thoughts on Rager in his debut?
If you need him in your flex, start him all day because I think he will get about 8 targets. Deshaun always kills his former teams, especially week 1 when he's actually, healthy. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot today. I think one thing Kev was saying about Boston Scott, I don't know how much he's going to run it, but I think he's going to get between 6 and 10 catches maybe. I think they're going to fire up the screens. You still have Ertz, you have Goddard, but they got all that speed for a reason, and they're going to want to show that off early. So start him. I like him.
This was a question we got a lot in our YouTube comments on the start sit video that we did on Monday. But what are you guys doing with Antonio Gibson on the other side of this? Are you firing him up? How are you feeling about Antonio Gibson now that we've kind of parsed out the Eagles backfield?
So Eagles are usually pretty good against the run. That being said, I think Washington's probably going to have to throw, which is perfectly fine because Gibson is more of an air back than anything else. So I think they're going to work him in like that. Bryce Love's probably going to get some touches. I'm starting him, I think, in 3 leagues, and I don't have any problem with that. I think he's a top 20 RB, so it's not like I think he's going to go bonkers, but at the same time, I think he's actually pretty safe for 15 or 20 fantasy points.
15 or 20?
15 to
Whoa.
Yeah. You think that's too much?
Yes. I mean,
okay.
Absolutely. I mean,
I don't think it's crazy to call it like a ceiling, but I think to say you're saying it's his floor. Like
no, I don't think that. I don't think it's crazy to see him getting 15 to 20 fantasy points because
I don't think it's crazy either. But
yeah, so
I think it was just the way that you're like so cavalier about it. Like,
that's usually what I'm like. Oh, look, it's a dead body. I need to go to Wawa to get something, all right? So it's perfectly fine. That's just kind of how I am. But they don't have Derek Barnett. They don't have, I think, Hargraves out today. So their line isn't quite as good as it is, so they might be a little bit susceptible to the run early. Plus, we don't know what the offense is necessarily going to look like. I mean, who knows? But I still think he's in the RB2 range, startable, easily.
All right, next question. Keenan Allen or DJ Chark? This one's easy for me. It's Chark. Yes. I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. He's also rocking Michael Thomas and DJ Moore. So nice set of receivers he has there. Is anyone different on that? Anyone going Keenan? Anyone even want to try and make the argument for Keenan Allen here?
Well, like we start at the top, I'm in that same conundrum. And the reason I like Keenan Allen is just that the Bengals were not good last year against quarterback and wide receiver. And then they are having 2 of their top 3 corners out in Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander, who they both got this offseason from the Vikings. And so I just think that defense is going to be trying to figure itself out. Geno Atkins, I just think they're going to be, kind of rough. So I do think if they're looking at short passes from Tyrod to Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, from a PPR standpoint, that looks good. But that garbage time points for DJ Chark, once I think they get down to Indianapolis, I think, as we saw in the Thursday game, garbage points work with Watson and Fuller there. So that is the case to be made. I'll probably lean Chark there, but I do think Keenan Allen is a good start this week as well.
Let's talk a little Packers and Vikings. Vikings opened up at -2.5 with an over-under of 45. Is there anybody outside of Devontae Adams you're going to be starting? Are there any secondary pieces just in general from both sides? Are you going Justin Jefferson at all? Or are you touching any of those Vikings tight ends? What are you doing with this game here? Robbie, go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, for both sides, I'll start kind of flip on the Packers side. I think Lazard is an interesting guy. I've got him in a couple of tournament plays there as just like this dart throw. The Vikings defense completely changed. Hunter's out. They obviously lost their star corners. They do have really good safety play still. So I think Lazard is a good kind of dart throw if you want to throw him in for a tournament play. And then, from the flip side with the Vikings, I mean, Thielen, and that's about it. You can't trust BC Johnson, JJ. I just can't trust those guys yet.
How you feeling about Aaron Jones?
Yeah.
I love him. I think that I think he could end up scoring most fantasy points this week. I love him that much. He is. If you go back and look at his career against the Vikings, he has absolutely smashed the Vikings. Not to mention the fact that they lost to Neil Hunter, who was one of their best run stuffing defensive linemen, and Ngakoue is not good against the run at all. So I think that this sets up for a great game for Aaron Jones. If you go back and look, like I said, Aaron Jones, week 16, he had 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Week 2, 150 yards and a touchdown. And 2018, week 12, 93 yards and a touchdown. So he has crushed the Vikings in the past. So I am not worried whatsoever about Aaron Jones. He is an absolute smash play and should be considered as a top 5 running back.
I said this to Robbie on our show earlier in the week. Aaron Jones is still their wide receiver too.
Yes, that as well.
Got a question from Green Light in the YouTube chat. Kev, Wentz or Newton?
I think they're both good plays, but I would probably go with Wentz. I'd probably lean towards Wentz. I do think that this game has potential to be a shootout. I know a lot of people look at the Redskins like they usually do and think that they're horrible. I'm not all that worried about the Philly secondary, and so I think on the Washington side of the football, I think that Dwayne Haskins. We started to see it last year. We started to take another step forward last year, at the end of the year with Terry McLaurin. I know they don't have a lot else past that, but I also think, like, if you were desperate at tight end, like, Logan Thomas isn't out of the question. He's going to be their starting tight end. He does have some athleticism, and so. And then, with Antonio Gibson, I think they move Antonio Gibson all around the formation. I don't think he specifically just plays out of the backfield. So I think they put him, use him in the slot some and stuff like that. So I think the Redskins can keep this game close. And if they do, I think that spells great things for Carson Wentz. And these pass catchers. So, I think I was higher on Deshaun Jackson prior to the Jalen Reagor news. Now I think that I would much rather. I think Jalen Reagor is more in play. I still think Deshaun Jackson obviously can break off a long touchdown, but I think it does hurt him because I do think they still run a lot of 12 personnel. They, with getting Reagor back, that kind of cools down the Deshaun Jackson hype, and people shouldn't be expecting what they thought he was going to do prior to Jalen Reagor being out, because they still have Greg Ward. They're going to run 12 personnel, so Goddard and Ertz is going to get theirs. So I don't think Deshaun Jackson is as much of a great play as we felt like he was earlier in the week because of that. So I think that's something that people should be taking into consideration when they're looking at the pass catchers for the Eagles, is if you are planning on starting Deshaun Jackson before, earlier in the week, I would think long and hard about not playing him now or not being as high on him because of that, because I think that things have changed. And I don't think a lot of people, if you would have told me earlier in the week that Miles Sanders would be out and Jalen Reagor was going to play, I wouldn't have believed you, but here we are. And so I think that Jalen Reagor certainly does have, 20-point upside in the range of possibilities. I don't think that is a leap to say. And I think he can end up leading the team in targets today. I think that's a possibility. I would probably lean more towards Zach Ertz as the guy doing that. But I think Rager's in play. So, yeah, I know it's a long-winded answer to say that I really think Carson Wentz was the way I'd go.
We got our guy Rock Out coming back to the Fantasy Authority YouTube channel. He has a question for us: Djax or
Michael Gallup?
Full PPR in his flex.
Michael Gallup. And it's not even close.
Agreed.
Yep.
Philip Schroeder: since Sutton is iffy, do I go with Antonio Gibson, Boston Scott, Monty Slayton, or Preston Williams? Has a bunch of options there. Tom, how do you feel about that? Is there anyone that's jumping out to you right off the bat?
At first, I was thinking Antonio Gibson, and then it got to Preston Williams, and now I'm kind of like turning my head like my pug does to see me a little bit clearer when he tries to think. You know what I mean? Man, that's a tough one. I think the safest one there is going to be Boston Scott. But to tell you the truth, I would just wait and put Slayton in because it's a Monday night game, so you're probably going to hear something by then.
You want to play? You want to play Slayton against the Steelers defense?
That's the last because Sutton might play. I think he's 50-50 to play. So if it comes down to it, you're starting Sutton or Slayton, probably. I mean, I don't love any of the other ones. I think they're all right around in the same range. I think Preston Williams, we're not sure. I really like Preston Williams, so I'm not sure what to think about it. My bias might be getting the best of me there. I would
Jeff, how risky do you want to be, honestly?
Yeah.
Like, just like Tom was saying, like if you want to play with fire, and you want to go with Sutton, that's fine. You do have a backup option with Slayton, but then on Kev's side, any of these guys between Boston Scott and Tony Gibson, they do have that upside, as we were saying before. So if you want to maybe just lock something in, make sure you get, a starting running back out there that's going to get, 10, 12 touches. I think one of those guys would be a good start.
Yeah, I wouldn't be messing around with that. It's clearly Boston Scott for me.
Got another one. Breeze or Goff, or he can pick up Big Ben. Jeff, right back to you. Who you rolling with here? I don't think he needs to pick up Big Ben. I think it's either Breeze or Goff, who already appears to be on the roster.
I'd be starting Breeze. I have Big Ben higher than Goff. This is a great matchup. But Breeze, it's a great spot for him.
See, I think if there's a game that's going to disappoint this week, that the points aren't going to be there, that's much more of a defensive struggle, I think it's this one. I think it is the Bucs and the Saints game. I think the Bucs defense is better than what people give it credit for. A lot of the troubles, especially with their secondary, had to do with the fact that Jameis Winston turned the ball over almost every other play, and so they were always trailing behind. So they obviously and so I don't think they were ever set up for positive game scripts very often. So I think a lot of people look at the Bucs defense and think that they were trash, but I mean they were elite against the run last year, and I don't know. I think that this game could actually probably hit the under. Much more than what people think it could. I think a lot of people look at this game and think it's just going to be an absolute shootout. I don't know if I trust that. I don't know if so. I think it is a real question for me. Like I think I would rather play Goff in this scenario over Breeze, and just because I think you can project a higher score like that. Like the Dallas Rams game is probably my favorite game of this entire weekend. I think that it can absolutely go off. Neither one of those defenses are defenses that I think are very good. I think they have some good pieces on both sides, but I don't think neither one of them are a defense I'm afraid of. The Rams defense isn't what it used to be. Obviously, they still have Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, but overall they lost a lot from that defense last year. And then on the other side of the football, the Cowboys lost quite a bit as well. So, I mean, this game really looks like it could end up being like that 38-35 type game. So, I would rather go Goff here in that scenario.
Real quick to piggyback off that, just going back to our rankings, you guys can find them at thefantasyauthority.com. Click on the week 1 rankings. We all have Drew Brees 6, 6, and 8, well above Goff and Big Ben. We have Goff and Big Ben down in the teens, the early teens. So I think this is Breeze by how we've all ranked it, and it's not close.
I don't think I've so honestly, if I'm being honest, I haven't touched those rankings in a while. I think since it was like Tuesday or something, at least the quarterbacks.
I would probably say Breeze.
I would change it because I think that everything that I just said. So yep. The more I've really dug into everything, because especially the last couple of days, I've really been building lineups for DFS, and everything points me in the direction where I think that it wouldn't shock me, obviously, if this game, if the Bucs game did go over, but I just think there's a lot to look here to think that they could actually go under.
Yeah, I'm rocking with Goff there. Philip is back asking the running backs that he just gave, Antonio Gibson, Boston Scott, David Montgomery, would you substitute any of those for Carson? I say no. Tom, are you substituting any of those guys for Chris Carson?
Nope.
Robbie, no. Jeff, no. Kev, another no. Noel is back. Who has the higher ceiling between Anthony Miller and Ruggs? That's definitely Ruggs. Right?
In terms of ceiling, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Kev had that look of like, you're fucking stupid. Did you?
No, it's Ruggs. Yeah. No. For sure. Like this is one of the tougher ones though for me is because it's been Ruggs and Brian Edwards is because I feel like Brian Edwards has a higher floor than what Ruggs does, but Ruggs I think has a higher ceiling because of his ability to take the top off the defense and could, house call 2 touchdowns. But I honestly, like, if you don't, like, I was trying to think of guys like, if you didn't feel comfortable playing Mike Evans because, he could end up getting hurt again, or if you lost Kenny Galladay, like, who would you be looking for to substitute in to those spots that would likely be available for a lot of people? And I think Brian Edwards would sit somewhere at the top for me for guys that I would want to pick up and play, because I think 8 to 10 targets is certainly in the range of possibilities for him. I think he's like we've talked about. I think he's a little bit better fit. I think with Derek Carr is wanting to drop it down. And so, like, if you're looking for somebody to pick up, like, Brian Edwards shouldn't be available anyways, but if he is, I know he's still pretty widely available in most leagues because he hasn't done anything yet. But he definitely has Rookie of the Year upside in his range of outcomes this year. And so, for me, like I said, like, I go back and forth with this game because of those two, because I do think that on either side of I look at it, like, I could see either one of them doing well. I don't know if I can necessarily foresee both of them, so that's what I was trying to figure out between the two of them.
Hawkinson or Fant?
That's 100%
Tom.
Hawkinson.
Yeah, no, we went over that a little bit earlier. I love Hawk this week, especially with Galladay being out. So,
if Sutton were to sit, though, I do like Fant a lot. If Sutton were to sit, I think I would go Fant in that scenario. But Hawk, if you're unsure.
But we also don't know, so we got to make a decision by one, unfortunately. So in that circumstance, you definitely go Hawk because you know what you're getting. Because even if Sutton's out, Fant then kind of approaches about where Hawkinson's at. It's almost like a tie. So if that's your upside, then I'll just go Hawk.
Jeff, going to toss this one to you. Devontae Parker or McLaurin?
Easily McLaurin. I don't want any part of Devontae Parker this week at all. At all.
McLaurin's a really good price on DraftKings right now. I think he's 5,600 or something pretty low, and I think that is just a great play against the Eagles secondary.
Yeah, he absolutely smoked us last year as well. He went over 100 both times he played us, I believe. So,
Tom, do you have any idea if Slay is going to shadow or if he's just going to be stuck on one side of the field?
So they were talking about shadowing, and it's going to be on a game-by-game basis, and they didn't say anything prior as far as if he was going to. I would think if you're going to get that shiny new toy week 1, he should be, because what did we talk about earlier? Who else are they going to throw the ball to? Antonio Gibson? Logan Thomas? So I would be following him. But their other corner is Avonte Maddox on the outside, who is fast. So it's not like TMC is just going to blow him right off the line. So it's going to be dependent on how they think the matchup is. But if I'm Jim Schwartz, I'm having Slay follow him around.
Another McLaurin. Go ahead.
Which brings me to a good one. One of the quandaries I had in my home league lineup, that it's not going to matter because I'm like favored by 80 points. So I can do, where my heart is. I know. Yeah, fancy. But I'm starting Jonathan Taylor over McLaurin just because I don't know if Slay is going to follow him around. And, I'm going to win that matchup anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But that was one of the things I was diving in when I was looking at McLaurin, was if Slay was going to follow him.
So you just get to brag either way. Awesome.
Yeah.
Another McLaurin question. Robbie, I'll throw this one to you. I think this is going to be unanimous across the board as well. Montgomery or McLaurin?
Yeah, I think I'll stay with McLaurin there. I just really like that matchup.
Cousins or Matt Ryan, Jeff?
Oh, Matt Ryan. It's not even close.
Yes.
That game has massive shootout potential.
Kev, coming to you for this one, Daniel Jones or Tom Brady?
Well, we're not playing Daniel Jones this week. He shouldn't be played anywhere unless you have no other option. I don't like that matchup against the Steelers defense. Steelers defense is top 5 in the league. It's Brady.
Agreed. Our resident Jacksonville homer, Pine Sparrow, jumping in. It's going to be a wet day in Jacksonville. James Robinson, what do you guys like? I think is more of a DFS conversation than it is a redraft conversation because you picked him up off of waivers. You didn't draft this guy unless you drafted, let's say, on Sunday or something leading up to the week. What are you guys doing just in general, I guess, with this Jacksonville backfield?
Avoiding, personally.
You guys, are you going to start Chris Thompson because he's healthy right now and should probably get 6, 7, 8 targets week 1 and then just drop him whenever he pops up on the injury report next week?
If you have to, yeah. I mean, I think that's the play. James Robinson is so unproven. Like, I know people have been hyping him up, but I mean, I could see 7, 8 touches for him. And I can see 7, 8 touches for any of these guys. So I think it's extremely risky. But if I'm picking a guy, it's Chris Thompson for me. He's been there with Jay Gruden before.
Yeah, and game script obviously points towards Chris Thompson as well. They're 8-point dogs.
Speaking of Chris Thompson, we got a question from Robert in the YouTube chat. Chris Thompson, Jamison Crowder, or Anthony Miller in his flex full PPR? Kev, what say you, sir? Thompson, Crowder, Anthony Miller.
I think this one's actually pretty close. We know Sam Darnold loves to target James Crowder. James Crowder can see 15 targets today. They are hurting at wide receiver. It says like they should have Rashad Perriman, but they're not going to have Denzel Mims. And obviously, I think that they are going to be playing from behind, so they're going to have to be throwing the ball a lot more. And so I do like Jamison Crowder. I think he should be somebody that people should be looking at. Chris Thompson, I think, can go either way. He's only way that works out is if they are playing from behind for the majority of the game that Chris Thompson probably sees the upside. And then I really like Anthony Miller in this game as well. I would probably go Jamison Crowder.
Crowder for me as well. Anybody else have a differing opinion?
Yeah, that one's tough. It's really tough. I think Crowder gets peppered with targets, but I just don't see a lot of upside there against that Buffalo defense. Like, could you see the Jets just having 3 points against the Buffalo in bad weather? Right, we have 15 to 20 miles per hour, scattered thunderstorms. It just seems like an ugly game. Maybe go Anthony Miller there for me, but if you're looking at maybe a more upside play.
I mean, the wind and the weather is not going to matter for Jamison Crowder's 2-yard A-dog. So
True. So true.
Another question from A Machine 35: Akers or Parker at the flex? Tom, who you rolling with there?
As much as I love Akers, I can't put him out there yet. So I'm starting Devontae Parker just because you don't know what you're going to get yet. If it's week 2 and we see that Akers had a 50% snap share, then I'd probably go Akers there. But for right now, I got to go Devontae Parker, I think, and it makes me want to throw up all over my screen.
Besides knowing the outcome, what's the difference between him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Akers.
If things were equal and we hadn't seen the Chiefs play yet, obviously we know how that played out. But What's the difference between the two of them in terms of just week 1?
Well, the offensive line, the overall offense for me, McVay and Goff didn't seem to have it together last year, so we got to see if they can. Whereas the Chiefs are just a well-oiled machine. So we're all hoping that Kupp and Robert Woods can they're going to be perfectly fine. But their run game was what suffered last year for me. But I think Akers is the guy to prove that. But we don't know what the snap share is going to look like yet. So that's the only reason I'm sitting him. CEH, we knew he was going to get more touches just because they weren't going to, have Darrell Williams out there for 70% of the snaps.
Yeah, they're very different situations. I mean, you have a trio of backs. Akers won't get the first carry, which isn't the biggest of deals. Dallas's run defense is going to be the only good thing on that defense. Yeah, you're just talking about a trio of backs, and then CEH is obviously was that lead back coming in, got the first touch there. So, yeah, I'm staying away from all Rams running backs there.
I think I would go Cam Akers over Devontae Parker.
I don't hate it. I just if I have to do it, I'm probably going to just err on the side of caution there with Parker. That's the only reason why.
And Henderson was a full participant in practice back to back, so he's also going to be active. I mean, we've talked about it a bunch on this podcast. Tom, I know you're behind this as well. Akers is going to take over that backfield at some point. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, but with how week 1 shakes out, I mean, I can see going either way on that one. We have our first defense question of the year. Who would you guys be going with? Broncos defense, Titans, or Packers? Obviously, we have Packers at Vikings, Titans going up against the Broncos. So, are there any one there that sticks out to you who you'd be starting?
I moved the Broncos defense down, obviously with Von Miller being out for the year, Bradley Chubb's on a snap count. I moved them down, but when I moved them down, they went right in that Tennessee Titans range. So, I mean, it's kind of a toss-up there. I think both those teams now have the ability to maybe struggle against the Titans offense or the Broncos offense. So I think that's kind of a pick 'em, honestly. I don't know if anyone else has a better advice there.
I might go Packers just because I think that Vikings offense is going to be pretty generic and pretty bland. That Packers defense is pretty solid. The Titans, I don't know. I think they were kind of a flash in the pan last year. I'm not exactly sure if they are as good as they played. So I mean, none of those outside of the Broncos. I think either the Titans or the Packers. Neither of them really stick out to me as must starts or must sits. Sports Wiz jumping in. PPR. Landry, Parker, Judy, Cohen, Akers, Chris Thompson, or James Robinson. He just needs one out of those. Jeff, I'll throw this one to you. I'll rattle these off again. So PPR needs one for the flex. Landry, Devontae Parker, Jerry Jeudy, Tariq Cohen, Cam Akers, Chris Thompson, or James Robinson.
Wow, quite the list. From what I've read is that Landry is probably going to be on some sort of count today. I don't know if you guys heard anything differently. Man, I go upside, and I'd still be going Akers. That's a big list. Yeah,
I did not see anything on Landry. Is anybody else?
He hasn't been on the injury report, but he himself has said he's not 100%, and he's kind of being cautious with it. So I agree with Jeff, where that's kind of a scary situation with Landry. It's already a tough matchup, against Baltimore. That one's tough. I personally have already said I'm not going to start any of the Rams running backs, so I would go Parker in this. Going up against a Pats defense that had 15 people opt out. I think Fitzmagic can air it out to Parker there. I don't love any of those options, but it's going to be Parker for me.
Kev, what are you looking at out of that list? Does anyone stick out to you?
I'd go Akers.
I think Akers are
I think the Akers situation is one of those where it's like, well, we don't know, so I don't want to make a decision on it but I think it's still pretty straightforward. Like, I'm not concerned with Darrell Henderson. I wasn't concerned with Darrell Henderson this year. I'm not going to be concerned with him now. I'm not concerned with Malcolm Brown. I think Cam Akers is the best pass catching back that they have here as well. And if this game projected to be a shootout, he's going to see a lot of targets. Like, I don't think that we should be that concerned with him. I think I have him as I definitely have him as an RB2. I think I could move him a little bit higher if I felt like it. But in this, it comes down to the other options that are there and that I can take. Devontae Parker is a scary person to count on. I know that he played well against Stephon Gilmore in the past, last year most notably, but that was also without Preston Williams whenever he was seeing the majority of the targets. Prior to that, Preston Williams was seeing more targets. So I'm not sure if you can one-for-one say that about Devontae Parker. I am concerned with Landry, with Jarvis Landry, considering that he's going up against Baltimore, and their secondary is one of the best in the league. So I think there's a lot of question marks there. And so for me, again, I just think it's Cam Akers. I think it's just one of those situations where, well, I haven't seen it yet, so I want to wait it out. And for me, I still think it's easily Cam Akers.
Job, you're going to throw this one at you since you are the de facto defense guy since you did one article. We already touched on the Titans, but would you start the Titans or the Lions versus the Bears?
Yeah, I would go Titans there.
And then following this up, I'm going to
I think you get a bonus if Sutton sits. Go ahead.
Stay here with you just because you are also the resident Cowboys homer and the Robert Woods fanboy club leader. Robert Woods versus the Cowboys or Amari Cooper versus the Rams?
Oh, I got to go Woods there. Cooper's back in practice. He was back in practice after having some limited work. He'll see a decent share of Jalen Ramsey, but Jalen Ramsey isn't. I don't think he's going to shadow the entire time. The Cowboys offense just has too many weapons. But I'm much more comfortable with Woods going up against potentially a rookie in Diggs. So it's either Chidobe Awuzie, third string, or not third string, but a third-year corner, or the rookie in Diggs. So I will go Robert Woods there.
I'm going to opt myself out of this question because it's Tyler Boyd season. But Michael Gallup or Tyler Boyd? Jeff, what say you here?
I'd be going Michael Gallup. I think I have him as a low-end wide receiver 2 this week. Especially when just what Robbie was saying, Amari Cooper, limited practice all week, right? It was like 4 straight practices. The shootout potential. Joe Burrow's first week. I'm going Gallup all day there.
Tom, you hate the Cowboys. Or are you also going Gallup here over Boyd?
No, I do hate the Cowboys. That's the end of the statement. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually going Tyler Boyd there. I took Tyler Boyd 52.5 for receiving yards. I actually really like that number. I really like the Bengals to actually upset the Chargers today. I think Joe Burrow is going to come out and play pretty well. I think they're going to throw a lot. And I think Tyler Boyd is going to crush that 52.5. So go make some money.
We are closing in on the first TFA game day pregame show, whatever we're calling this here. We appreciate all the questions and all the interactions we've gotten so far. If you are still rocking with us and you are not yet subscribed, please do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to us. Are there any other games we have yet to touch on you guys want to touch on here as we're getting close to closing things out? Is there anything that's sticking out to you that we have not yet touched on? Any just tidbits, any tips, any advice you have for the TFA fam?
Well, I was going to say, who do you think is the guy that, or who is one player you think everybody should be adding now, not waiting till after today to add? Somebody that you think that kind of has some upside, like we talked about, like Brian, or with Edwards or whoever. Is there a guy that you guys are making sure you have locked up if available? Because there's we did the waiver show, and there was surprisingly a lot of players that I thought would have been on rosters that weren't. So who's that one guy for you guys that you definitely have to have that you want before week 1, before they go off?
I'm not sure what Kev, you alluded to this with the waiver show, but the one that stood out to both of us was just how widely available Jalen Rager was for whatever reason. I'm not sure what his roster percentage has changed to now with the news that he's played, but if he's still hanging out there, you got to get him on your teams. He's someone who I would absolutely be adding.
Absolutely. I actually like Anthony Miller quite a bit. I'd go out and get him. I'm not positive what he is, but I'm in a couple of redraft leagues, and I think I'm the only person that actually owns him in those.
I like that call, especially with how strong he finished the year last year. Right. I mean, there was a stretch of a couple of weeks where he was like wide receiver, like 11 or something. Now was still with A-Rob just completely balling out. I think it was like weeks 11 to 15 or 12 to 15 or something like that. A-Rob was like wide receiver 4 or 5, and Anthony Miller was a high end wide receiver 2. He seems to be healthy. There really hasn't been too much negative news coming out from him, so I like that call a lot as well.
I'll quickly touch on the 49ers game. I know we didn't talk a lot about that, but I think Kendrick Bourne is an interesting guy with Deebo Samuel's going on IR for 3 weeks. And Brandon Ayuk kind of up in the air, rookie hamstring. He's literally missed, I think, 2 or 3 weeks now. I think Kendrick Bourne is an interesting guy as being leading that wide receiver room. And then Jerick McKinnon. So if Tevin Coleman decides to sit out with the air atmosphere in San Fran, we won't find that out until a little bit later, I think. But I think Jerick McKinnon is a guy that probably isn't on a ton of rosters, which does he continue on after this week is the big question. But he's someone to monitor, maybe pick up week 1. He plays. Maybe he does well, and then you can have him stashed for future weeks. Because we know Shanahan, he likes to rotate those backs, and there's no reason why McKinnon can't get part of that action.
One more I will throw in here before we get to Garrett's question. Laviska Shenault. Go and add him. We have a question we're going to get to after this about predictions with leading the league in trash points, and I think that is going to be the Blake Bortles Jaguars again. Garrett wants to know half PPR, Deshaun Jackson or Antonio Gibson?
Antonio Gibson.
Tom?
Yep.
Depends on what you need. If you're projected to lose by 10, 15 points, I think Deshaun, he can always go ham and have 155 yards and 2 touchdowns like he did last year. But if you want that safety, I'm going Antonio Gibson as well.
You guys have any other answers for predictions on who's going to lead the league in garbage points? I think it's going to be Chark and Minshew. I think that's just setting up beautifully for those two.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think everyone's favorite team to have the least amount of wins is the Jaguars. Another one I'll throw at you guys is the Panthers. Their defense is obviously atrocious, so I think they'll have a lot of catch-up to do. Obviously, CMC is going to be a big factor there, DJ Moore. But some of these other guys might get involved as well. Ian Thomas a couple weeks here and there, Robbie Anderson. So I think some of those players I think you might start to see creep up in flex options once we hit bye weeks is if the Panthers are facing somebody that we're expecting them to lose by a lot too.
I think McLaurin is another one, again, just because they're going to have to throw it a lot, and they're going to have to throw it to McLaurin, and he's going to wind up beating defenses deep because that's what he does, and, he'll do it again.
Tight end question here, I think, is going to be unanimous across the board. Gronk or Kittle? I said Kittle. Nobody rocking with Gronk there, correct?
No. Kittle should be your tight end 1 by a big margin this week against Arizona.
Got our first Facebook comment jumping in here. This is taking the you tell they went late round quarterback on this one. Are you going Baker or Fitz? Kev, who you got?
You have to go with Fitz magic here, right? I mean, the Mr. I don't give a fuck. I mean, you go out and drop 304 today, and would not surprise me whatsoever.
Wouldn't surprise me if they win, right? Miami's always got the Pats number at least once a year.
I know. I mean, they knocked them off the last time they played, week 17.
Yep, I agree with Kev.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it, guys. If you have any last-second questions, go ahead and drop them in now. We're about to sign off. Love all the interaction. We're definitely going to be doing this every week. This is a lot of fun. If you guys have any suggestions to make this better for you all, that's why we are doing this. If you think we should maybe do this a little earlier, maybe from 11 to 12 instead of 11:30 to 12:30, any constructive criticism is welcome. So we appreciate all you guys. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so. Like I said, we're going to be doing this every week and trying to get you guys ready. We're going to have the early look at waivers tonight. We will be dropping that. We will be dropping that as well. Patrick, with the second question here before we sign off, Matt Ryan or Kyler Murray?
Matt Ryan.
Robbie?
Instinctively, I want to say Kyler Murray, but I do have.
Oh, your instincts are wrong. So
yeah, I do have Matt Ryan right there. So I like that matchup there for Matt Ryan.
One last one before we sign off here. Magic Trio, full PPR, Hilton or OBJ. Kev, what do you say?
I'd go Odell.
Robbie says yes. Tom, what do you say?
Yeah.
Yes. Jeff, Hilton or
Yeah,
OBJ?
I'd be going OBJ as well. Game script is not going to favor Hilton.
We need two of these three in a full PPR from Raj. Chark, Woods, or AJ Brown. I'm taking the first two there. I'm pushing AJ Brown. He's still going to get the targets, but I'm not sure what his upside is. And if he only gets, I'm just not betting on AJ Brown to do his 3 for 98 every single week like he did last year. So those two are for me. Is anybody going AJ Brown here?
No, it would be Chark and Woods. Both of them are in much better spots. Yeah, it's easily Chark and Woods for me.
Awesome. Well, like I said, we appreciate you guys. If you are still watching, if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. Like I said, we have waivers coming tonight. We're going to have the start sit. We have two new Dynasty podcasts that just dropped with Tom and Robbie. Jeff is always killing it with the graphics and with the helping out with the rankings and everything else. So we're doing all of this just full circle for you guys. Redraft, DFS, Dynasty, we got it all. We're talking. If you're not yet in the Slack chat, we will drop the link in here at the bottom before we log off. Slack chat is always popping, especially with the DFS. So if you were planning on trying out DFS for the first year, that chat is always super, super active, always super helpful. Thrive Fantasy as well. If you want to try DFS in a new way, let's say you want to try DFS, but you don't want to have to worry about starting somebody like Dan Arnold and getting Dan Arnold or Keelan Cole week correctly on DFS. Thrive Fantasy what they're doing is you're still building a lineup, but you're doing it with props. And whenever you're doing with props, you pick 10 of 20, I think, and you're only worrying about the top tier talent. So if you go to Thrive Fantasy and you make a $20 deposit, they will get you $20 back. Just use the code TFA. One more here before we sign off. Standard flex. Andrew wants to know Thompson, Michelle, or Djax.
Djax.
Yeah, I think Djax in standard is a good high risk, high reward play, especially week one.
I'm definitely not fucking with Michelle.
No.
All right. That's going to do it, guys. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys later tonight when we talk waivers. Later.